Load to Joy, a games industry story. Part 2, Rebirth. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Game development in 2026, just like the wider world, is a maelstrom of uncertainty and turmoil. We're all in the violent waters, wondering who amongst us will drown next. Which studio will announce that it is closing? Who amongst our friends will be laid off? All the job boards are bare, and when a wild job role does appear in the tall grass, which of the 100-plus Pokeballs thrown at it will capture that rare beast? So the two questions are, what is happening, and how do we survive in the games industry, as individuals and a collective? The first question, what the hell is going on, was largely answered in Part 1, but not fully. There's more to this woeful tale, and I would like to expand upon it in 3 ways. 1. The way players play has significantly shifted in the last 3 to 4 years. 2. The tech we now have available to us is radically different than it was 3 to 4 years ago. 3. The appetite from players has changed. None of this has been addressed by the big players and studios in large part. In many cases, it may not have even been identified, or if it has, is invariably being ignored. These slow, lumbering Goliaths find it painful to adapt due to their very nature. The wheels of bureaucracy turn slow, and do so with a wincing moan. Thus, things get done the same way they always have. Let's address each of these points. 1. What are players doing that's different now? This story is complex. However, I have identified one element of the story that we can address. Spawned from lockdowns and the rise of insular living, with working from home becoming widely socially acceptable and more prevalent, players are using games as a social substrate more broadly, leading to the rise of the friend slop genre. The way we play is not only evolving in the area of in-game socialization, but also in a game's social sphere of influence, through interpersonal interaction via social media and communities like Twitch or Discord. The value of social interaction through and around games, in this way, has increased as society has changed. We have gone from talking around the water cooler about how good the sky looks in Horizon Zero Dawn, to frantically shouting, "Has anyone got a coconut?" while playing Peak, or posting pics of the sexy new tiefling you created in Baldur's Gate 3 on Discord. Of course, this was not unusual in the past, but has become far more pervasive today, due to the change in social dynamics around games. On top of this, spending power in the West is down year on year, exacerbated by 2021's cost of living crisis and beyond. Luxury items, such as games, are obviously the first to get cut when people need to stretch their cash. AAA's solution was to expand predatory free-to-play models and raise premium model prices to try and get more from the players still able to buy, pricing more players out of AAA gaming. But people don't just stop doing what they love, and so the value and richness of the indie scene became even more appealing to players. This short-term, cannibalistic AAA thinking to get more out of whomever is still spending, while offering less in return, perpetuates that shrinking AAA market. If that space is to grow, it is obvious that the complete opposite is required: more value and less cost to the player. 2. Tech. What's changed? Software such as Unreal, Blender, Houdini, etc., have developed rapidly over the last few years, empowering the individual developer in many different disciplines. Simultaneously, digital distribution is now the norm. Publishing models are now more accessible, and marketing has largely switched to social media. What this means is that a smaller, highly talented team can achieve a lot more than they ever could in the past, now that the power is in their hands. The key to making this approach work is to empower highly capable individuals, encourage autonomy and team unity around a cohesive vision. Think of it as a special forces unit like the SAS or SEAL Team 6, a small, highly motivated, talented, and cohesive group of specialists that can get a lot done for their team size now that the tech is available to them. Counter to that is the traditional approach of a large, bureaucratic, slow-moving army of people creating a game by brute force. You only have to look at the quality and vibrancy of the indie scene to see what the results could look like. When it comes to tech, there is no getting around the elephant Mario in the room. You're not going to hear me get all gushy and starry-eyed over AI and start vibe coding anytime soon. And yes, AI is undoubtedly affecting jobs. But it's a thing now. And just as big studios are slow to adapt to anything, they are slow to adapt to AI. The use of AI in game development is left to the individual developer's initiative and prerogative. It's commonplace to use large language models to assist or tidy up documentation, image generators to express a concept, and in some cases, code generation to prototype features. This double-edged sword should be wielded with care. The obvious implication is a simultaneous empowerment and increase in productivity within the individual, and an erosion of the value, and in some instances, skill of the individual. Not to mention the often derivative and uninspired output of these AI models, risk of unwitting plagiarism, as well as the risk to professions AI imitates. Now that the obvious has been said, let's point out something not so obvious. All of the aforementioned uses of AI, while empowering the individual developers, are not player-facing, and therefore don't utilize the technology in order to enhance the player experience actively. The potential for player-facing implementations of large language models and machine learning in particular to create new gameplay experiences for players is immense. And yet the lion's share of large studios are not acting on this. I doubt they are even thinking about this in a serious way. I've spoken to many major studios in the last couple of months and have asked the question, do you have an AI department within the development team of the games you're creating? This is usually met with confusion and comments like, do you mean an enemy department? Or, well, a lot of us use ChatGPT and stuff. When expansive narrative became possible within our medium, we stood up narrative departments. When mocap entered the equation, we created mocap studios and integrated it into our animation pipeline. The pioneers that did this reaped the rewards, pushed the boundaries of games forward, and delivered wondrous new experiences for players. Why then is this new, arguably more impactful paradigm change of player-facing AI being ignored? 3. The appetite of players has changed. Or has it? The fundamental mission for any game studio is to deliver a game that players want. All too often we are seeing big studios miss the mark. We are seeing games getting released one week and dying the next, getting taken offline within a month, and studios going up in smoke as a result. We're seeing huge projects underperform. We're seeing huge reveals at gaming events go down like a wet calorie mate with the audience. It's gotten so bad that in some cases, the developers blame the players for not buying into their failure. Meanwhile, the Chinese game development studios are delivering banger after banger to the West and giving players exactly what they want, taking a growing share of the shrinking pie. So what gives? 3 things. The first major part of the equation is the triple I mentality of big studios, detailed in part 1. Secondly, although on the decline, I still see some studios sacrificing the desires of their audience for better optics on the business stage, and among socio-political groups they feel should be appeased over others. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for exploring socio-political and philosophical ideas within our medium, but pushing an agenda on people always leaves a bad taste in the mouth. And this question of taste is doubly hard to swallow if unaligned with major demographics within your target audience, who can usually still sense it being pushed even when the agenda is hidden. Thirdly, and this is the crux of the matter, players just want to play great games that cater to their desires. In this era, studios are still making games like it's 2021. This is not a question of technology or technique, although those have advanced. This is about societal needs. Let me explain. It's common practice for most disciplines in game development to keep the player in mind while creating a game. We deeply understand the concept of the player and different categories of players. As developers, we are well versed in catering to the player or a certain player group. However, in order to create games relevant to the players of the day, players in the here and now, in this time, as opposed to those from previous years or decades, those leading a development should engage in a practice rarely seen. They must switch their mindset from thinking of players and go 2 steps beyond. Players are people, and people are society. Once this conceptual leap is taken, a visionary creator can go from analyzing players and their needs to analyzing society and its needs. From there, we can ask if the medium of video games, as opposed to other mediums like film, television, and literature, is well tailored or uniquely suited to cater to the identified societal needs. It's fairly obvious that as a society, we are living in a world radically different than a few years ago, and thus societal needs, and by proxy, player desires, are radically different. Yet many developers are still making the same type of games they would have made in an earlier era, and thus not catering to current social needs. By working through this thought experiment, thinking of players as members of society, and trying to identify what society is asking of games right now, I have identified 2 potential societal needs that video games are uniquely well positioned to cater to. 1. Escapism. 2. Completionism. These are most likely 2 of many societal needs video games will be well adapted to fulfill. Let's look at each. 1. Escapism. As stated at the beginning of Part 2, it's an understatement that the world is a crazy place right now. There is unprecedented chaos within society, and through social media, it is pumped into our ear holes and eyeballs on the daily, inducing existential dread in increasingly larger swathes of society. Video games are uniquely capable of providing escapism to those that crave a break from reality, a holiday for the mind. We know and understand the power of games to transport the player to new worlds and provide said escapism. Obviously, we should deal with our problems, but we all need a break sometimes, a break from reality that video games can provide. Unfortunately, many games reflect reality. War in meat space, war in virtual space, social politics on the socials, social politics in game character interactions. This is not to say that these topics are not important or shouldn't be addressed, but when you are looking for respite from reality, when these types of things are encountered in a game, they can instantly rip you out of the fantasy, breaking immersion and focus your mind back on the world of the real, negating the function of the game to provide escapism. A last point regarding escapism. I previously stated that exploring socio-political and philosophical ideas within our medium can be a good thing when not pushed. I also understand the value of grounding a game experience to give it more gravitas and meaningful association to people's lives. This is indeed the case, and can in fact enhance the escapism. When exploring touchstones not prevalent in societal thought, it can draw players into the game's world. When handling subjects that are prevalent in society, consider avoiding those that have built up fatigue in societal thought. If these subjects are still essential to your game, consider exploring them through a fantastical or abstract lens in order to preserve immersion and escapism. 2. Completionism. It is commonplace now for people to have little or no security in their lives, perpetually paying bills, car loans, rent or mortgages, living month to month with little to show for their efforts. A common story, I'm sure we can all agree. If we distill this state of affairs in people's everyday lives down to an emotional observation, we could say that there is a lack of completionism in society. People find it increasingly difficult to get to a point where they can say, "Okay, that's done forever. I've achieved what I was working towards," or "mission accomplished." Instead, most of us find ourselves in a state of perpetualism. The struggles never end. Video games can absolutely grant people a substitute feeling of completionism in their lives that is difficult to find elsewhere. You reached max level. You defeated the end boss. You got platinum. You saw end credits. All little wins that give your synapses the rare feeling of completionism, and possibly subconsciously encourage striving for completionism in your wider life. Again, the trend in the industry right now is not to cater to this societal need. Quite the opposite, in fact. Perpetualism seems to be the order of the day. Perpetual battle passes, live services designed to keep you playing indefinitely, leaving you always wanting more, short, medium, and long-term goals in rotation so that nothing is ever finished. Monthly updates, new seasons, resets, and wipes. Increasingly, a game isn't even ready when it's launched, requiring a day-one patch, balances and updates in perpetuation for months until everything is ironed out or the game is fully realized. This direction of perpetualism is the antithesis of completionism, and if perpetuated, will provide less satisfaction and meaning to those looking for both meaning and satisfaction. If you are a game creator, why not try this thought experiment yourself? Analyze society, your player base, identify societal needs, then ask how our medium can cater to those needs. It may just lead to an unforeseen revelation. Next time, in Part 3, we will delve into cultural propagation and ask the question, can games become the golden purveyor of culture once again? If you would like to support this work, it would go a long way and is highly appreciated. Please visit patreon.com/dreamspersecondstudio. Links in the description. Thank you.